What's up, Model Breath? It's Spiritual God here, and welcome to a rebooted series of What If Ash caught the Pokemon he could have caught. I'm just rebooting the series because I don't like how I did it previously, because I was just blabbering some shit, and it was the beginning stage of my channel. And the other reason is that I didn't make a script for that, but from now, or what if Naruto got the game of ability, I started making a script for that, and now this is the second video where I'm making a script. So yeah, I started making scripts. So yeah, it's development, I guess. But with that out of the way, let's get watching. Ash Ketchum, a 10-year-old boy from Pallet Town, wakes up late for a start Pokemon ceremony. He runs to the lab of Professor Oak, the person who's giving away 3 starter Pokemon, Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. When Ash arrives to the lab, he sees that his so-called rival, Gary Oak, the grandson of Professor Oak, is setting out for his journey. Ash goes inside the lab to meet Professor Oak, and when he meets Professor Oak gives Ash the news that he doesn't have any starter Pokemon left. Ash is dejected, but then Professor Oak gives Ash a Pokeball with a lightning symbol on it. When Ash releases the Pokemon inside the Pokeball, it is a Pikachu. But this Pikachu has a problem, which is that it doesn't listen to Ash. Ash tries to force Pikachu to listen to him, but Pikachu just shocks Ash. Ash sighs and just goes back home and decides to go on his journey. Ash drags Pikachu with him. When he reaches Route 1, Ash encounters a Rattata and a Pidgey. Due to Ash being incompetent as a trainer, he misses his chance to catch either of the 2 Pokemon. Ash then sees another Pokemon, a Spearow. Being Ash, decides to throw a rock at the Spearow. When the rock hits the Spearow is angry and starts attacking both Ash and Pikachu. Pikachu shocks the arrow in retaliation. Pikachu shocks Spearow in retaliation, and Spearow falls down. Ash takes this time to take a Pokeball from his back and then throws it towards the wild Spearow. The Spearow gets up and seemingly screams, but then the Pokeball touches it and sucks it in. Ash runs to the Pokeball to see it shake 3 times and then stops moving. Ash picks up the Pokeball, but before he could celebrate, he hears a rustling sound from behind him. When he turns around, he sees a flock of Spearows, and then he and Pikachu start running. Ash takes out a spare Pokeball just in case, anything would happen in his life. Ash and Pikachu reach the end of the cliff of the waterfall. Ash just decides to risk it and picks up Pikachu and jumps in the water with him. Ash falls to the water, but he didn't realize that Pikachu didn't know how to swim. So he took hold of Pikachu to not let him to drown or get out of his grip, but due to that, Ash was washed away in the stream. The Pokeball in Ash's hand slips out and starts floating, but then a Gyarados swimming in the water, but it actually touched the Pokeball. The Pokeball touched the Gyarados and sucked it in. Ash saw this and swam towards the floating and shaking Pokeball. When Ash gets a hold of it, he's pulled out from inside the water by a girl called Misty. When Misty sees that the Pikachu is injured, she first slaps Ash and then points to the next town, which has a Pokemon Center. Ash picks up Pikachu and his Pokeball, which has stopped shaking, and starts running since he wanted to get rid of the Spearows who were tailing him. Ash runs for his lives, but then the flock of Spearows catch up to him and start attacking him. Ash tries to move his hand to get rid of the attacking Spearows, but then he slips up and falls to the ground with Pikachu falling too. When Ash sees his starter Pokemon in a bad condition, Ash gets his determination. He stands up and goes in front of Pikachu in a protective stance. When Ash and the flock of Spearows stare down at each other, Ash remembers that he caught a Spearow as well, so he sent out his captured Pokemon. When Spearow comes out of his Pokeball, he's first confused at what is happening, but then quickly understands the situation. Ash the Spearow stares at Ash, and Ash stares at the Spearow with determination. Then the Spearow takes out a long sigh and turns toward the enemy flock of Spearows. When Ash sees this, he has a smile on his face, and then he takes out his Pokédex to get to know about the Spearow's move. It is Peck, Leer, and Wing Attack. Ash decides to fight his first Pokemon battle with his first captured Pokemon. This doesn't make any sense, by the way. Ash tells Spearow to use Peck. Spearow nods and starts to attack his king. The enemy flock of Spearows take this as a declaration of war and start attacking Ash's Spearow. Due to Ash, being an incompetent trainer, Ash isn't able to beat the Spearows at first, but with him growing during the Pokemon battle and Spearow taking out many of his kind, Ash and his Spearow take out more than half of the enemy Pokemon. But Ash and his Spearow are both tired. The remaining Spearow decide to attack Ash and Spearow at the same time and rush at the both of them. Ash and his Spearow get ready for what they think is the final battle. But Pikachu was watching all of this injured, finally decides to help his trainer, since his trainer and now his teammate risked both of their lives for him. So Pikachu gets up, runs to Ash, and then jumps on his shoulder, then jumps again from his shoulder to the enemy Spearows. Ash and his Spearow are shocked about Pikachu trying to battle, but even before Ash could even move, Pikachu uses a Thunder Shock with all of his power, which creates a lightning effect and shoots all the enemy Spearows. All the Spearows are knocked out, and Ash, his Spearow, and his Pikachu are down. Then Ash and his two Pokemon see a red, majestic Pokemon flying over the sky. The Pokédex registers it as Ho-Ho. Ash then gets up to see his two Pokemon in bad shape. He picks up Spearow's Pokeball and pulls Spearow back inside of it. Ash then picks up Pikachu and starts running towards the nearby town. When he reaches his current destination, a police officer named Officer Jenny stops him and asks him about his identity. She tells him about the Pokédex being a trainer's identity and blah blah stuff like that, people trying to steal other people's Pokemon. But when she sees Pikachu's condition, she immediately acts and pulls Ash into her bike and she travels to the Pokemon Center. When she reaches there, Nurse Joy, the head of the Pokemon Center, quickly takes charge and takes Pikachu into the infirmary. Ash stops and pulls out Spearow's Pokeball and saying that this Pokemon needed attention too. Nurse Joy nods, and with Chansey, both of them go inside the infirmary. Officer Jenny goes back to her duty and now Ash is alone. Ash decides to talk to his mother, and when he does, she tells him to talk to Professor Oak. After talking a little bit with his mother, Ash then calls Professor Oak and tells him about the mythical Pokemon he saw, which was Ho-Ho. Both Ash and Oak talk for a while and then Ash cuts the call. But the Pokemon Center is attacked by two individuals and a Pokemon, James, Jesse, and Meowth of Team Rocket. Ash is scared of them at first, but then remembers he also has a second Pokemon. So Ash takes out the Pokeball and throws it, and out comes Gyarados. And when the trio sees that they are scared, Ash takes out his Pokédex and scans Gyarados. Its moveset are Twister, Dragon Rage, Bubble Beam, and Hyper Beam. Ash tells Gyarados to use Bubble Beam, but Gyarados doesn't do anything. Ash is first confused, but then James laughs and comments about how Ash is weak and isn't worthy of commanding Gyarados. Ash is angry at this comment, but before he could say anything, the red-haired Jesse says that they will steal his Gyarados right in front of him, and he couldn't do anything. Ash, hearing this, is even more angry and jumps in front of Gyarados in a protective stance, saying that he would never let anyone take away his Gyarados. Jesse is surprised by this, but then Jesse, James, and Meowth laugh and comment about Ash just being a twerp, and Jesse tells her Pokemon, Ekans, to attack Ash, and Ekans uses his tail to slap Ash to the other side. When Gyarados sees this, he becomes angry, which confuses even itself. Gyarados opens its mouth and a beam starts forming or charging, whatever you wanna call it. Ash, Jesse, Meowth, Ekans, and James's Pokemon coughing are surprised by this, and the trio and their two Pokemon are worried. Ash's Gyarados shoots a beam charging in his mouth, and the trio which blasts the hole in the Pokemon Center, but it manages to make the trio, Ekans and Coughing, blast off. A while later, Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny come to ask questions. Ash answers all of them truthfully, and after that, Ash gets his Spearow and Pikachu back, and all of them decide to continue a journey together. Ash enters the Viridian Forest and wants to catch some Pokemon here. Pikachu is walking in front of him, and Spearow and Gyarados are in the Pokeball. While walking, Pikachu hears rustling in the bushes to his left, and when he turns his head, he sees a buck looking towards them. Pikachu stops, which makes Ash stops, and when he looks to where Pikachu is looking, he sees the buck staring at both of them. Ash takes out his Pokédex and scans the bucks, which turns out to be Caterpie. Ash takes out a Pokeball and throws at the Caterpie. The ball touches Caterpie and sucks at him. The ball falls to the ground and shakes 3 times and then stops. Ash turns to gather the Pokeball, and this is the first time Ash caught a Pokemon without any dangers looming around him, so he celebrates with Pikachu. Ash then heads forward, and a couple of hours later, the Team Rocket shows up to capture Ash's Gyarados. Ash is pissed that they wanna capture his Pokemon, so Ash sends in his Pikachu and sends out his newly acquired Caterpie. Team Rocket laughs at the small bug creature, which pisses off Caterpie and Ash alike, so Ash tells Pikachu to use Thundershock and Caterpie to use String Shot to tie them up. Team Rocket doesn't even get to send out their Pokemon. Caterpie's String Shot ties their legs together, and Pikachu uses Thundershock, which shocked them and sent them blasting off again. Due to this confrontation, Ash's Caterpie evolves into a Metapod. Ash is happy to see his first evolution process. A day later, Ash encounters a Pidgeotto and sends out his Spearow. When Spearow and Pidgeotto lays eyes on each other, they both are ready for battle. Ash doesn't understand this reaction, so when he uses Pokédex to check it out, the Pokédex comments that the Spearow race and the Pidgey race have always been enemies. Ash thinks that this is a good opportunity to train Spearow, so he tells Spearow to attack. Spearow and Pidgeotto clash. They clash with all they got until Ash gets called out by a bug trainer who wants to challenge them. Ash gets distracted, which in turn makes Spearow distracted, which allows Pidgeotto to fly away. Ash is pretty pissed about his battle just being interrupted, and Ash decides to accept the battle. Ash calls back his Spearow, but the bug catcher sends out Pinsir, and Ash sends out Gyarados. The bug catcher sees this, but first he's terrified as hell, but then notices that the Gyarados is not listening to Ash. The bug catcher mocks Ash for being weak. This pisses off Gyarados, but gives Ash an idea. The Gyarados opens his mouth to charge a Hyper Beam, but then Gyarados anime-style trips when he hears Ash accepting the mockery. Ash comments on about how he couldn't make Gyarados listen to him. He tells Gyarados he should just release it, and when Ash is about to do that, Gyarados starts screaming. Ash and the bug catchers are confused, but then they see Pikachu and Gyarados conversing. After a couple of minutes, Pikachu relays what Gyarados is trying to say. Ash understands that The Gyarados doesn't mind being with Ash as its trainer. Ash the Smile is thinking that his plan work. The bug catcher is first confused about the whole situation, but then realized that Ash is using for the sake of making Gyarados listen to him. The bug catcher gets angry and tells Pinsir to attack Gyarados, and Pinsir runs towards Gyarados with his cross in his head. Ash sees this and tells Gyarados to use Bubble Beam, and Gyarados complies. The bubble beam hits Pinsir and is knocked out. Ash celebrates his first victory with Gyarados. The bug catcher sends his Metapod. Ash decalls Gyarados and sends out his own Metapod. The universal battle between a Metapod and a Metapod begins, which takes hours. Both Ash and the bug catcher decides that to make this match a draw, but then a Beetle comes out of nowhere and picks up Ash's Metapod. Ash quickly reacts and throws a Pokeball at the Beetle. The Beetle gets sucked into the Pokeball, then Ash runs and catches his Metapod along with the falling Pokeball. When Ash gets up, he sees a swarm of Beetle coming towards him. The bug catcher dips out of there, but Ash decides to stay and fight. He sends out his Pikachu, his Metapod, his newly acquired Beetle, and Spearow. While the Beetle swarm is coming, Ash decides with a plan. Ash tells Metapod to harden as much as it can, and then tells Beetle to carry the hardened Metapod and throw it towards the Beetle coming, and then Beetle can finish it off. Beetle is first confused about the plan, but then he thinks that Ash is crazy, but just complies. Ash tells Pikachu and Spearow to take on the remaining Beetles. All of them nod, and Ash starts his plan. The Beetle swarm versus Ash's Pokemon. The battle is intense. Ash has never commanded 4 Pokemon at once. This is a new experience for him. He has never commanded even 2 Pokemon at once, but this is a new experience. But due to Ash's growing potential during a battle, he's able to at least deal with it. His Beetle and his Metapod make a great tag team, and they are taking out the enemy Beetle quickly. Pikachu and Spearow aren't slacking off either. Spearow has experience of fighting with many opponents at the same time, but it's the first time for Pikachu to fight many opponents, but he's adapting quickly. In the midst of the battle, one enemy Beetle understands Ash's plan and makes a counteract for it. It waits for Ash's Beetle to throw Ash's Metapod at it, and in the right moment, the Beetle attacks the Metapod, injuring it a lot. Ash sees this and regroups with Metapod in his hand. The enemy's Beetle surrounds Ash and his Pokemon. All of Ash's Pokemon are standing and ready to fight to the death. But then the midword in Ash's hand starts to glow, and then after a couple of seconds it evolves into a Butterfree. Ash is shocked but uses his Pokeball to see its new move, Sleep Powder and Poison Powder. Ash tells Butterfree to use Sleep Powder, and it complies. It uses Sleep Powder and puts all the other Pokemon except for its teammate to sleep. Ash celebrates his victory and then goes to the bug catcher's house and knocks on the door. When the bug catcher sees Ash and he asks how Ash is alive, Ash just comments about how he fought the Beetles and won. But the bug catcher first thinks that Ash is playing or just arrogant at first, but then Ash shows the proof. The bug catcher is just terrified and just points towards Pewter City. Ash thanks him and walks towards Pewter City. When Ash exits the Viridian Forest, he comes across a man sitting on a rock. Ash asks the man about the location of the Pokemon Center, and the man points in a certain direction. Ash thanks the man and walks away, not knowing the gaze of the man which is on Ash. Ash reaches the Pokemon Center and gives all of his Pokemon to Eel. Ash then stumbles across the poster of the Pokemon Championships. He reads the details and finds out that he needs 8 gym badges to qualify for the championships. Ash goes to Nurse Joy and asks her how to register to the Pokemon Championships. She asks for his Pokédex and Ash gives, not knowing why. Nurse Joy then goes to the computer and starts typing something, which Ash doesn't really get. After a while, she comes with Ash's Pokemon in tow. She says that Ash is now registered with his Pokemon as an official Pokemon trainer and he needs 8 gym badges. She also comments about the gym here in Pewter City. Ash thanks Nurse Joy and runs toward the Pokemon gym thinking he can beat the gym leader. When he enters, he meets Brock, the Pewter City gym leader. Ash demands for a battle and Brock accepts it. Brock sends out his Onix and Ash sends out his Pikachu. Pikachu is decimated and Ash is forced to give up. Okay guys, so here's the thing. Even if Ash has a lot more experience in batting than in canon at this point, I mean, he fought a group of Spearows with his Spearow, then he fought a group of Beedrill with all of his Pokemon, so he has a battle experience. But you should remember that Ash is an idiot. He is an idiot and always will be an idiot. He is still an incompetent trainer. He doesn't know the type matchups and well, that is his law. So yeah, that's all. Let's continue with the story. The man who Ash met when he exited the Viridian Forest comes and tells Ash that he has a way to help Ash win against Brock. Ash accepts the offer and both of them go to the abandoned water plant. The man, now known as Phil, tells Ash about his plan to overcharge his Pikachu. Ash agrees and does manual labor to activate the water plant, and while Phil overcharges Pikachu. After Pikachu is overcharged, Phil asks Ash about his Pokemon. He tells Phil about his Pokemon: Gyarados, Spearow, Beedrill, Butterfree, and Pikachu. When Flint hears that Ash has a Gyarados, Flint asks Ash about if he knows the type matchups or not. Ash just comments about he doesn't know what that means. Due to Ash being but then Flint decides to teach Ash about the type matchups. Due to Ash being an idiot, it takes the entire night, but Ash is able to learn about the type matchups. The next day, Ash challenges Brock again. Brock accepts the rematch and then sends out Geodude. Ash, knowing about the type matchups this time, sends out Gyarados. Brock, seeing that Ash has an over-level Gyarados, thinks that Gyarados doesn't listen to him and tells his Geodude to attack. Ash, seeing this, tells Geodude to use Bubble Beam and it complex, knocking out Geodude in one hit. Brock is shocked to see Gyarados actually listening to Ash. Brock apologizes for underestimating Ash and sends in Onix. Ash recalls Gyarados and sends in Pikachu. Brock questions the decision of Ash and then he's shocked that Pikachu could harm Onix. Pikachu and Onix have an intense fight, and Ash takes the opportunity to use the sprinklers to weaken Onix. When Ash is gonna go for the final move, Brock's brothers and sisters stop Ash. Brock scolds them but then is shocked when Ash gives up. When Brock asks why Ash just gave up, Ash just says that it would have been a draw anyways. Ash leaves Brock's gym, and when he's leaving Pewter City, Brock comes in and gives Ash his first patch. Then Flinks comes in and revealing that he's Brock's father-in-law and tells Brock to live his dreams, which is to become a breeder. Brock decides to join Ash on his journey, and the duo with Pikachu start on their legendary journey. Oh, and one more thing, Misty's in the story with Ash because, well, it's my choice. I mean, that's the answer all I have. Because I know like Misty is like a very important character to the series and all, but she doesn't help with the development of Ash. Brock is a very important character, but Misty is just there because she wants her bike back, kind of stuff like that. I think that's my option about that, but whatever. Ash and Brock travel to Mount Moon, and then they encounter a professor who's researching about Clefairies. Ash then sees a Sandshrew suffering, which saddens him, so he throws a Pokeball at it, catching it. Brock also catches a Zubat, by the way. When they go deeper into the tunnel, Team Rocket shows up. Ash and Brock are ready for battle, but then a Clefairy passes by all of them carrying a stone. Meow chases the said Clefairy, and Ash and Brock do too. When they corner the Clefairy, Ash throws a Pokeball, catching it. When Ash picks up the Pokeball, it glows a little, then vanishes. Ash is horrified at what just happened, but Brock calms down Ash and tells that a trainer can only have 6 Pokemon and others will be sent to the Professor Oak's lab. Ash breathes a sigh of relief and picks up the stone which the Clefairy dropped. Then the Professor, Ash and Brock find out about the Clefairy ceremony where Clefairy evolved into Clefairbug, but Team Rocket comes in and tries to ruin the ceremony, and thanks to Ash and Brock, they're able to send them blasting off again. And after that, Brock and Ash head towards Cerulean City, where when they reach a sign, Ash sees something scribbled on the signboard. When he reads it, it says, Gary was here, Ash is a loser. Ash reads this and is pissed, so he runs out towards Cerulean City with Brock in tow. And that's where I'll end this off for this episode. If you guys like the rebooted series more than the original, then please like, share, subscribe, do the necessary stuff. And if you don't, I understand. So peace out.